There is a distinct difference between a bad situation and a complete institutional collapse. And if you have a nose for politics, you can smell the difference from a mile away. Look, I am not James Carville. I am just an independent strategist looking at the map, but you do not need to be a grandmaster of political campaigns to understand that the air in Washington right now is thick with something that smells a hell of a lot like rot. We are sitting here looking at the start of 2026, and the metaphor of the stench is perfect because it is visceral, it is unavoidable, and it permeates every single crack in the drywall of our democracy. You look at the headlines, and it is not just the usual incompetence or the garden variety gridlock we got used to in the past. We are talking about a level of absurdity that would make a carnival barker blush. You have people genuinely talking about invading Greenland like it is a game of Risk. You have the Federal Reserve chair, the one guy standing between us and total currency debasement, being hunted down and investigated like a criminal. And you have this overwhelming sense that everything that is not nailed down is being pried loose and stuffed into a sack. It is looting. Plain and simple. It is the looting of American credibility, the looting of our treasury, and the looting of our future. And if you are not recoiling from the odor of it, then your senses have gone dead. I want you to really think about the mechanics of what we are seeing right now, because it is easy to get distracted by the noise and the circus act. The spectacle is the point. When you hear about these wild schemes like buying or invading sovereign territory or turning the Department of Justice into a personal vending machine for retribution, the goal is to shock you into submission so you stop looking at the ledger. But we are going to look at the ledger. We are going to look at the power dynamics because that is where the real game is played. This is not about one man's personal traits or his hygiene, though God knows the metaphor fits. This is about a systemic dismantling of the guardrails that keep an economy functioning. When you attack the Fed, you are not just attacking a bureaucrat in a suit. You are attacking the dollar in your pocket. You are telling the global markets that the United States is no longer open for serious business, that we are now running a banana republic with nuclear weapons. And the consequences of that, they do not hit the guys in the private jets. They hit you. They hit your mortgage rate, your grocery bill, and your retirement account. That is the smell of fear in the markets, and it is the smell of opportunity for the grifters who are circling the carcass. Now, I want to talk about the alternative because you cannot just curse the darkness. You have to light a candle or at least point a flashlight at someone who knows how to screw in a light bulb. You look at the chaos on one side, the absolute refusal to engage with reality. And then you look at someone like Mark Carney. You look at a guy who actually understands the plumbing of the global financial system. I am not saying he is a saint. I am saying he is an adult. In a room full of toddlers throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, competence looks like a superpower. Mark Carney represents that institutional credibility, the idea that you make decisions based on data, on economic incentives, on long-term stability, not on what is going to get you the biggest applause line at a rally or the biggest kickback for your cronies. The contrast could not be sharper. On one hand, you have the art of the deal, which has turned into the art of the steal, a chaotic free-for-all where policy is made by tweet and enforced by sycophancy. On the other hand, you have the serious, sometimes boring, but absolutely necessary work of macroeconomic stability. And let me tell you, boring is good. Boring pays the bills. Boring keeps the inflation rate from turning your paycheck into confetti. We have to get real about why this is happening. This did not come out of nowhere. The electorate did not just wake up one day and decide they wanted a circus. This is the result of decades of people feeling like the system was rigged against them. And you know what? They were right. But the tragedy, the absolute Greek tragedy of this moment in 2026 is that the solution they picked is pouring gasoline on the fire. They hired an arsonist to put out the house fire. You see the incentives here? If you are Donald Trump or the people in his orbit, your incentive is not to fix the system. Your incentive is to break it further because in the chaos, you can hide the loot. If the lights are out, nobody sees you taking the silverware. That is why they go after the Fed. That is why they create these smoke screens about Greenland or whatever the distraction of the week is. It is all designed to keep you looking at the shiny object while they strip the copper wiring out of the walls. It is a hustle. It is the oldest hustle in the book, just done on a scale that is hard to comprehend. And where are the Democrats? Where is the opposition? They are running around with their hair on fire, clutching their pearls, and reading from a rule book that got thrown in the shredder 5 years ago. You cannot fight this kind of asymmetric political warfare with press releases and sternly worded letters. You have to fight it by exposing the grift, by showing people exactly how they are being robbed. You have to connect the dots between the crazy headline, the rotten roast beef smell of the administration, and the empty feeling in the American wallet. You have to show that competence, the kind of competence Mark Carney talks about, is not elitism. It is survival. It is the difference between having a currency that works and having a wheelbarrow full of worthless paper. We are standing on a precipice here. The institutions are bending and some of them are snapping. The judiciary, the regulatory agencies, the military leadership, they are all under a stress test that they were never designed to withstand. So, as we kick off this deep dive, I want you to put aside the personality drama for a second. Forget the tweets, forget the rallies, forget the bad makeup. Focus on the money, focus on the power. Who benefits when the Fed is neutered? Who makes money when tariffs explode? Who gets rich when the rule of law becomes the rule of the mob? Because if you follow the money, you will find the source of the rot. You will find the reason why everything smells so bad. It is not an accident. It is a business model, and business is booming for the people at the top while everyone else is left holding the bag. We are going to strip this down piece by piece. We are going to look at the incentives, the players, and the inevitable consequences of letting a bull loose in a china shop and then cheering when he starts breaking the plates. This is not just a bad political cycle. This is a fundamental restructuring of American power, shifting it away from institutions and laws and concentrating it in the hands of a few people who view the presidency as a get-rich-quick scheme. And that, my friends, is why the smell is not going away anytime soon. It is going to get worse before it gets better, unless we wake up and realize that we need to stop watching the clown show and start paying attention to the guys trying to steal the tent. Now, I want to pivot from the stench of corruption to the one thing that actually clears the air in a room like this, and that is competence. I know, competence is not sexy. It does not sell red hats, and it does not get you trending on social media at 3 in the morning. But when your house is flooding, you do not call a guy who is going to stand on your lawn and scream about how the water is a conspiracy. You call a plumber who knows how to turn the valve. And that brings me to Mark Carney. You look at a guy like Carney, and the contrast with the current occupant of the White House could not be more violent. Carney is not a guy who operates on gut instinct or resentment. He operates on spreadsheets, on risk assessment, on the fundamental laws of gravity that govern the global economy. He represents the institutional credibility that is currently being shredded in the Oval Office. When Carney walks into a room, the markets calm down because they know an adult has entered the building. When Trump walks into a room, the markets hold their breath because they do not know if he is going to sign a trade deal or declare war on a cloud. This is where the rubber meets the road in 2026. We are not just fighting over culture war nonsense anymore. We are fighting over the basic machinery of American power. The Federal Reserve, the Treasury, the banking system, these are not political toys. They are the plumbing of the entire world. If you act like a bull in a china shop here, you do not just break a few plates, you crash the dollar, you wipe out savings, you turn a recession into a depression, and that is why the attacks on the Fed chair are so dangerous. Trump looks at the Federal Reserve and sees a piggy bank he cannot break into. He sees interest rates as a dial he should be able to turn whenever he needs a boost in the polls. He does not understand or he does not care that the independence of that institution is the only thing keeping our currency from turning into monopoly money. Mark Carney understands that. He understands that credibility is a currency all its own. You spend a lifetime building it, and you can lose it in a single afternoon if you let a grifter take the wheel. We have to stop pretending that there is an equivalence here. There isn't. On one side, you have an economic philosophy grounded in grievance and looting, a system designed to extract wealth from the many and funnel it to the few who kiss the ring. It is smash and grab economics. On the other side, represented by figures like Carney, you have the boring, difficult, necessary work of stewardship. It is the difference between an arsonist and a firefighter. The arsonist is always going to be more exciting to watch. The fire is bright, the heat is intense, and it draws a crowd. But the firefighter is the one who saves the neighborhood. And right now, the American neighborhood is smelling like smoke. We need to stop applauding the flames and start handing buckets to the people who know how to use them. Because eventually the spectacle ends, the cameras turn off, and we are the ones left standing in the ashes wondering where our retirement funds went.